For those who are unfamiliar, this is Steven Crowder. He's a far-right extremist. And he also has a YouTube channel with, holy mother, 5.9 million subbies. I didn't realize it was that high. I thought it was like 3.5 million. He had to address the Kanye West controversy recently. Had no real choice. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this controversy, let me give you a little primer on it. Kanye West came out and started talking about how he loves Nazis, how he identifies as a Nazi. He loves Hitler. And if you disagree, then you are part of the Jewish cabal that's trying to run the world, blah, blah, blah. It got absolutely crazy. He said a lot of this stuff on Alex Jones.
I don't really care that much about Hitler. I love him. Seems like
you just do it as a way to like troll.
No, he seems like a cool guy. You know, it's like it's like he had a really cool outfit and stuff, and he was a really good architect. And
no, he wasn't, and no, he didn't.
And so you're in love with the look of it.
And he didn't kill 6 million Jews. That's just like factually incorrect.
No, that's not factually incorrect. That's a Holocaust denialist position. He did actually kill 6 million Jews. We have a very detailed and elaborate understanding of how many people he killed and how he killed them and all that stuff. But okay. I couldn't let that go unrebutted.
A Ronald Reagan clip they showed me yesterday. Sorry, go ahead. Ronald Reagan said that too. Well, I think...
Yeah, I don't know what Ronald Reagan said, but it was a lie.
Hitler did target and kill some people. So I think,
I think Obama killed Palestinians.
Okay. Here's another clip from Kanye, pretty much telling you exactly how he feels.
Seriously, I've really studied a lot of history. Plus, I had family that was there. And so, I mean, I don't think Hitler was a good guy. I get the Hugo Boss uniforms, amazing. But I mean, just because you're in love with the design, you're a designer. Can we just kind of say like you like the uniforms, but that's about it?
No. There's a lot of things that I love about Hitler. A lot of things. Hey, Nedden, what did you?
Does it get much clearer than that? Like the guy is telling you that he loves Hitler. Believe him when he tells you this type of thing. Seriously, believe him when he says what he believes. So anyways, that's what happened with Kanye West on Alex Jones. It was a 3-hour interview. It was really, really long. And I thought about going through that whole interview with you guys, but it's bad. I don't know if we'd be able to without getting like taken down on YouTube or whatever. It's rough, dude. So anyways, Steven Crowder, far-right extremist, has to respond to this whole Kanye West thing and talk about why, he disagrees with him, if he disagrees with him or whatever else. I covered another episode the other day where Steven Crowder came out and said Kanye West is being used and he disagrees with his anti-Semitic comments. Not because he thinks that generalizations about a group of people are wrong, i.e. not because he has a problem with Kanye being racist, but because they're inaccurate. Because his claims about the Jewish people are inaccurate. He doesn't think that these things are happening or whatever else. He has no fundamental issue with Kanye talking about, Jews being evil, if they really were evil and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, let's listen to Steven Crowder here talk about the Alex Jones interview that Kanye West did, part of which we just watched. And while we listen to this, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild. All right, let's get into it.
It was bad for Trump to meet with Okay. I had no idea your voice is going to sound like that, Netanyahu.
Well, CNN says white people are evil Nazis, so, I mean, I disagree with both statements, but I get the...
Yeah, I don't like the word evil next to Nazis. I think we need to look at...
Oh, my goodness.
This dude, God, Alex Jones did everything he could to give Kanye West an out. Just try his hardest to give him softballs down the plate, and it failed miserably.
Just because you don't like one group doesn't mean the other. Look,
I love Jewish people, but I also love Nazis.
No, he hates Jews. He just talked about that like nonstop.
Oh, man. Well, I have to disagree with that.
All right. Mr. Jones, thank you for being with us, sir. I felt we needed to include that context. Boy, seemed like you were holding on for a bumpy ride with that interview. Do I have that about right? Did you expect that in your wildest dreams?
Oh, I'm going to be interested to see how Alex Jones responds to this, because he has to assume that Kanye West's going to watch this, right? And he doesn't want to burn that bridge. I'm sure he wants to maintain a friendship with Kanye past this.
No, I didn't. And I didn't say what he could talk about, but I said, can we just try to bring people together and talk about real issues like human trafficking and fentanyl and how you want to bring jobs back to America and really see the deeper side of you and not just sound bites. And they were like, yeah, in fact, he doesn't want to even get into that stuff. But then right away, sitting in the same studio I'm in right now, Thursday, bam, and I thought he was joking at first. And here's the deal. He pulled up in front of the office and got out of the vehicle in the GIMP mask. And so I didn't.
Okay, a GIMP mask is like a sexual thing, to my knowledge. That's not what Kanye is really wearing. That's it. From my understanding, that's just his COVID mask, I think.
Know what to say, and I said, pull your mask off. Let me see it's really you. And it was him. He puts the mask, he unzips the mask, and then it really creepy in person with the mask.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know, maybe it is a GIMP mask, you know? I guess that's a distinct possibility. I hadn't thought about it until he mentioned it just now.
I mean, really, I would see this as almost like a giant trolling operation, really. He was just super high on adrenaline when he did it. He feels really good about it. And I don't think has a very good historical knowledge about World War II either. So, I mean, he really is in love with all of that design, which so much of what...
No, okay, he's not in love with design. Stop trying to give the guy outs. He's in love with Nazis. He loves Nazis. He loves Hitler. There's no way to avoid this. Just admit it. He loves Hitler. Plain and simple.
The Nazis' design ended up being brought over with Operation Paperclip. Right. So it was bad.
Okay, Operation Paperclip, he got a little mention in there. If you're unfamiliar with Operation Paperclip, it's often mentioned heavily by conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones. It was this thing where the U.S. knew that there was going to be competition with Russia and other countries after World War II ended. Because if you remember, World War II was fought by the Allies and the Axis. So Germany, Japan, and Italy were on the Axis side, the bad guy side, basically. On the Allies side was America and the Soviet Union, pretty much. And everybody was kind of aware that the Soviet Union was likely to become like an enemy in the near future because they were already doing really terrible stuff leading up to that, like awful stuff. Hell, in my opinion, the Soviet Union was even worse than Germany at the time, but they got out of it. They were only like partnered with us because Hitler said that he was going to be attacking, or he's going to try to invade the Soviet Union, basically. And Joseph Stalin, the leader at the time, finally reluctantly agreed to work with America. So it was like a pincer attack. Russia came in from the east and America came in from the west, and we both took Germany, built a wall right down the middle, and that wall didn't fall until like the 1980s, the late 80s or the early 90s. I think it was the late 80s. But here's a picture of Stalin the moment that he found out that Hitler was planning to invade Russia or invade the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin was absolutely terrible in every way. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't even remember what brought me to this down this little line of comment. Let me listen again.
So much of what the Nazis designed ended up being brought over with Operation Paperclip. Right.
Operation Paperclip. I remember. So basically, we were in competition with the Soviet Union after that, and Operation Paperclip was intended to scoop up all of the Nazi doctors, Nazi scientists, and others, get them on American payroll before the USSR could get them on Russian payroll, basically. I understand why America did it, but it doesn't make it okay. Like, they protected them from war trials and stuff, and that just feels wrong.
It's bad that Ye says he loves Hitler. Then it's even worse that our own government brought tens of thousands of Nazis in at the end of World War II to run most of the major agencies. So
sure.
They didn't bring tens of millions of Nazis?
Operation Paperclip. Right. So it was bad that Ye says he loves Hitler. Then it's even worse that our own government brought tens of thousands of Nazis.
Okay, I'm sorry, tens of thousands. He said the American government brought tens of thousands of Nazis to run American agencies. That's not accurate. They were not brought in to run American agencies. This is where the conspiracy comes in. They were brought in to prevent our enemies from gaining access to them. And they also did not run these agencies. But this is, the conspiracy mindset. That's what it's all about with Alex Jones, is coming up with conspiracy theories and believing them with zero evidence. Zero evidence. Even if this stuff did turn out to be true, it wasn't justified for Alex Jones to believe it anyways, because we had no evidence to believe it. Even if we found out it was true tomorrow, it doesn't matter. It was an unjustified belief.
At the end of World War II to run most of the major agencies. So,
sure.
Both
are bad, but I did notice that you tried to bring in the concept of I'm trying to remember the term Hitler. The man, was it the man yet to come? What was the man to come?
The coming man.
The coming man, yeah.
The coming man. And I remember, yes, exactly, the coming man. Sorry, forgive me, but it's something with which I'm familiar. And I remember you asked me a very pointed question. You said you don't want to be that coming man, and it was very clear to me.
The idea of the coming man is that Hitler believed that somebody was going to take his place if he died. Someone was going to continue this ideology and deal with the Jews or whatever. That was Hitler's hope or belief or plan or whatever else. And he supposedly, I don't even know if this is true, but he supposedly said the coming man would likely come out of America. And here is Kanye West coming, out of America, claiming to love Hitler and all that stuff.
That regardless of where people line up here on any of this, and of course I'm anti-Hitler, and I know that you are, and I'm really glad the Allies beat the Nazis, he was not familiar with that. And so it does concern me that if he's going to go out and make these statements, were you concerned sort of understanding or being around his close inner social circle that they really aren't doing a good job in ensuring that he's informed when he goes out and discusses these issues?
He is very forceful and has a big personality, and it's really hard to get a word in edgewise, kind of like Trump.
That's a really good point. He doesn't know anything. Kanye doesn't seem to know a single thing about the history of this stuff.
And people think I have a big personality, but I'll actually be quiet sometimes. And I'm not, putting him down for that. He was like a whirlwind. You couldn't shut him up. He was going to say what he was going to say. And I was bringing up historic, real things about the Nazis that my family, who were in World War II, told me about. Oh, that's true. We saw that in Germany, or we saw that in Italy. Again, both my grandfathers almost died, both of them, World War II. I almost don't exist because of it. And they talked about what the Nazis were like. And my mom's dad also worked on some black budget weapons programs in the 50s and 60s.
Black budget means it's quiet. Nobody knows anything about it. I'm sorry, man. Alex Jones has lost his right for me to believe a word out of his mouth. He's going to have to provide evidence for literally everything that he says. That's not necessarily the case with some people. They tell me family stories or whatever about fighting Nazis. Some people I'd be willing to believe. My grandpa, I'd be willing to believe some of that. Not Alex Jones, man. Not Alex Jones.
And just said that he'd been at some military bases that had Nazis on them, and they were very, very arrogant. And he didn't like having to work with them in some of these programs. So I'm like 8 years old, hearing my grandfather in Austin, Texas, sitting around the kitchen table bitching about Nazis and working on secret weapons programs and how arrogant they were and how much he hated the government bringing them in here. So that's a real thing that's going on. So my dislike of Nazis really comes from my grandfathers, who both didn't like them very much.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. What was it when you had, obviously there's the numbers aspect because he's a huge name right now in the media. What was it that you were looking to achieve, or what were you hoping would be the end goal? What would be the ideal scenario with this interview with Ye? Because obviously it went viral across the media, but bringing him in, what were you hoping was going to come of it?
Well, while I was listening to you do a great job at breaking down that this whole Hunter laptop thing and the Twitter files are a lot bigger than just Hunter Biden. It's everything they've been censoring. I was thinking, what do I want to say about Ye first? And it's just this. I really thought I could come in here and shut up at first and let him.
Okay, look, I have to address this. The Twitter files thing and Hunter Biden and all of that. Elon Musk claimed that there was election interference on Joe Biden's part because Joe Biden ordered Twitter to take down posts about his son during the 2020 election, and that was government interference. Well, first of all, Biden was not a government official when this happened, and second, he asked him to take down nudes of Hunter Biden that were illegally posted to the internet. Revenge of Hunter Biden. That is, by the way, against Twitter's terms of service anyways to have that stuff up. So they were perfectly within their rights to request they take it down. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what we learned from the quote-unquote Twitter files. There's nothing there. But of course Alex Jones believes that it's some big conspiracy. Of course he does.
Him get it out of his system, even if he did it.
Right.
I was saying, hey, let's do something different. Let's show them your intellectual side. Let's get into a bunch of issues. And I had all these issues in front of me. He goes, why don't you just set those aside? We're not getting into that. I was like, okay, he's letting me know he's in control. And so I figured after an hour at least, he would let me kind of then bring up some topics I wanted. But you kind of had the salacious crumb, the baby Hitler of Nick Fuentes over there.
Oh, God. I didn't know he doesn't like Nick Fuentes. I didn't realize he didn't like the kid. Okay. He called him salacious crumb? Wow.
That was a joke Jimmy Kimmel made. Like, where have I seen this before? And it's I'm Jabba the Hutt, and there's a salacious crumb sitting there. But seriously,
Salacious Crumb is that little character that sat next to Jabba the Hutt, like at his tail, and acted like a weird little weasel that, laughed at everything that Jabba did and all that stuff.
I didn't know that Nick Fuentes was really a Nazi lover.
Yeah.
I'd had him on over the years.
Really? You didn't know that? Are you kidding me? That's what Nick Fuentes has been about since day one.
3 or 4 times whenever he was being debanked or censored, and he would be like, no, I'm not a Nazi. I just care about white people's rights. So I think this whole thing was a real coming out. And I'll be honest with you, especially with the Fuentes thing, and I'll still have Fuentes on. I believe in the First Amendment. But there's a real creepy factor with this Hitler stuff. And then I also noticed that Richard Spencer came out and said, yay, blew Jones away, because Jones is really controlled by the liberal narrative that Hitler's bad. But those of us that know the dark, powerful beauty of Hitler and of the darkness and of the strength, and it's like some homoerotic thing over Hitler, that is kind of what's going on. There's this Hitler fetish. And no, I'm not into dudes in fancy, peacock military uniforms that
Oh my God, Alex Jones mentioned that it was a Hitler fetish during the interview with Kanye West, too. That's really funny and interesting. Yeah, Richard Spencer, if you're unfamiliar, is the founder, self-ascribed founder of the alt-right, and obviously a Hitler lover. And I do have one clip by the guy, actually, that I haven't shown too often. This is Richard Spencer on the right. He's about to talk about free speech. Listen to this.
But as far as government regulation, I mean, yes, I think in the short term we would favor government regulation of speech, but long term, are we even pro free speech?
No, of course not. But we have to use this platform in order.
So we're being radically honest here. And,
yes, radically pragmatic. Yes. Yeah.
One interesting angle on this was that is a news article.
That's pretty open. I mean, that's obvious. It's about as obvious as it gets. They're not pro-free speech. They're only using free speech as far as they can to get their goals accomplished, and then they abandon it immediately. They don't care about rights. They don't care about the Constitution or any of that stuff. They care about controlling people. That's basically it. So anyway, let's keep listening to Alex Jones here. That's who he's talking about, is Richard Spencer.
That, by the way, got 22 million Germans killed. So the biggest killer of Germans in history, if you like Germanic people, and I'm basically half German, have a lot of German roots, is Hitler. Hitler was a disaster. Hitler was an occultist. Hitler.
Okay, I don't know about the last one, but maybe. I don't know. But yeah, 100%. He was most definitely an occultist. Apparently, I looked into this. Dude was obsessed with the occult. I had no idea he was like so into the occult. It's weird. So anyways, yeah, he's most definitely a terrible person. And you cannot, in my opinion, simultaneously be a Christian and also be pro-Hitler. And that's just because the Bible specifically denounces interest in the occult, if for no other reason than this one. The Bible denounces the occult. Hitler was obsessed with it. Real simple.
Was horrible. Screw Hitler. Burn in hell Hitler. And the left uses Hitler to push their communist agenda that is basically just as bad and authoritarian to call.
How do I use Hitler to push a communist agenda? What?
All of us Hitler. And so people are so sick of being called Hitler. They go, hey, if Hitler's so powerful, let's just say we're with Hitler. And that's what these people are doing. And I felt like I was sucked in to a giant publicity stunt. Now I'm not mad at either person. I understand that they probably even believe what they're doing. But no, I saw a whole bunch of programs like the Young Turds and all of them say, Jones is just mad they let the secret out. Jones likes Hitler. No, I hate authoritarians.
Okay, I didn't hear the Young Turks say that. I agree that he seems to hate Hitler and, Nazis and stuff. But I do have to point out that he came out, Alex Jones came out and said, I believe that there is a cabal of Jews out there that tries to pull strings and stuff. But you can't assume that of every Jewish person that you meet. You just have to target like the mafia Jews that are doing all of this behind the scenes. So he is an anti-Semitic scumbag, effectively. He does believe all of this stuff, the same as Kanye. He just doesn't hate individual people based on their ties to this community, is all. It's the only difference.
I hate communists. I hate Xi Jinping. I hate Hitler. I hate Mao Zedong. I hate Joseph Stalin. I hate Fidel Castro. I hate Hugo Chavez.
Yeah.
I love George Washington. I love Thomas Jefferson. I love American strength and freedom and power and Christianity and open societies.
Okay, so by and large, I, for the most part, generally have the same feelings about all of those groups and people as Alex Jones. I'm not a fan of, dictatorships. I'm not a fan of Xi Jinping. I'm not a fan of Hitler. I don't like Hitler. I don't like any of these things. I don't like Christianity either, but that's a story for another day. I actually do like open societies, though. So I guess that's where we kind of part ways. I don't like Christianity. I do like open societies. But he thinks that he's like some true American patriot because he's the only one that'll come out and say this stuff or whatever. It's like completely made up. He lives in a fantasy land where he's like the only true patriot here.
And capitalism and...
Yeah, Dr. Hayes says TYT did not say that. Yeah, it doesn't sound like something TYT would say, honestly. They don't seem to believe that, like, Jones loves Hitler or whatever. And I don't think anybody believes Jones loves Hitler. He's just exercising this persecution complex. Again, it's constant with this dude.
Free speech, and I want it back now. So burn.
Sorry, let's step back because he's about to have a freak out.
Yeah. I love George Washington. I love Thomas Jefferson. I love American strength and freedom and power and Christianity and open societies and capitalism and free speech, and I want it back now. So burn in hell, Hitler and Stalin and Mao. Burn in hell. That's what I told people.
Okay, now he's freaking out. Like, calm down. We're just talking about, like, values and ideals and beliefs here, Jones. Christ on a cracker.
Here's Morgan. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. And if you try to take our...
Oh, my God. And now he's like, Steven Crowder doesn't know how to handle this.
guns, 1776 will commence again.
You are my yay right now. See, I'm you and you're yay. See, I think you have some empathy for what I have to do sometimes when you're on. By the way, Alex, don't do that thing where you Monday morning quarterback and take credit for it. Hitler was already in hell burning before you said that.
Right,
okay, that's not because you called for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But no. Look, I understand.
Oh my God, these people are just ridiculous as they ridiculous as they come. Does not get more ridiculous than these people. Swear to God.
Exactly right. At first, I thought you were going to say the biggest killer of Nazis were the uniforms because that's how we went in. I thought you were going to say like the Hugo Boss uniforms were made of asbestos. But no, I agree with you. And here's the thing: you have people trying to defend it, saying, "Well," and there's validity to this. Kanye West said, "I love everybody." He didn't say he hated anybody. He said, "I love Jews. I love Hitler." But he did go out of his way to praise actions of Hitler while condemning actions of Jews in this sort of general monolith. And he did actively deny the Holocaust. So
yeah, absolutely. That whole I love everybody thing that he did was just an attempt to protect himself from criticism. That's it.
Act as though it was an equivalency of I love everybody. That's not what happened with that interview. Now, if people out there want to say, hey, he has every right to love Hitler, of course. And if you say I agree with him when he says he loves Hitler and that the Holocaust didn't happen, fine. But to act as though there was this equivalency, on your show in its totality. Sure, he said he loved everyone, but he did have specific praise for some totalitarian dictators.
Well, he said, I love Hitler. I think he had an orgasm over there.
Well, that's just how
he did. He said, I love Hitler. That's what he said.
Sounds when he raps. I love Hitler. Ha! But he
has the same voice for like every black person that he imitates, and it's disgusting, honestly.
It was one of those things where, let me ask you this. Do you think that ultimately it kind of ends up hurting? It kind of ends up hurting people who are out there advocating for free speech when we're saying we are not Nazis, and the guy goes out and just puts on a mask and says, actually, I do love Nazis, and actually the Holocaust doesn't happen. It does make it hard for people out there because, look, you're a lot of things, Alex. An anti-Semite is not one of them if people have looked at you historically. I don't even think many people have leveled that accusation.
No, he is an anti-Semite, actually. He most definitely is. Does he love Hitler? I don't think so. I don't get the impression he loves Hitler at all. I'm taking him at his word here. But he most definitely said that he believes there's a Jewish cabal out there that's like pulling strings from behind the scenes and stuff. That's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. And, it's unforgivable in my mind.
Against you. If anything, you've seen anti-Semites, people who legitimately hate Jews. And I don't mean people who don't believe that we should be sending a bunch of money to Israel. I mean people who legitimately hate Jews have accused you of being controlled Jewish opposition for a very long amount of time. So,
well, that's the thing. And here's the deal. I don't like MS-13, but I'm not against Central Americans. I don't like the new Black Panther Party that's like a black KKK, but I don't blame.
From my understanding, the new Black Panther Party is not super great. They have some problems. Not the old one, but the new one. But yeah, you're going to want to look into that a little bit yourself.
Black people. So Jews are a very diverse group for anybody that actually studies politics and geopolitical systems. There's a whole bunch of factions in Israel constantly fighting with each other and assassinating each other. The Jews over there have some of the most draconian, vaccine rules in the world. If they're so special, why do they have all that? So it's really not true. Are there powerful mafias? Are there powerful groups in Hollywood that happen from a certain group? Absolutely. And do we see those groups supporting leftist garbage in the media? Am I irritated by those groups? Do I like the ADL trying to take our free speech? No, I'm a big critic of the ADL, and they single me out at their big events just 2 weeks ago with the head of Pfizer and 2 years ago with Sacha Baron Cohen saying, I'm evil, I'm dangerous, I need to be silenced. But there's
Okay, I don't know of anybody who says Alex Jones is evil, dangerous, and needs to be silenced that way. I haven't heard that, maybe. But once again, the persecution complex is coming out.
all sorts of groups trying to silence my speech, not just the ADL. So it's really what it is with these groups is.
And by the way, to be clear, just so everyone say, when we say these groups, we mean anti-freedom groups, and we do not mean Jewish people. Just to be clear, George Soros is a second-generation atheist. Okay, let's be clear about that. Yeah. So to act
okay, I don't know that he's a second-generation atheist, but I think he said that he doesn't really believe in God. You know, there are a lot of Jewish people out there who don't believe in God, no longer believe in God, particularly after what happened in the Holocaust. Check this out. I posted this to my community thing the other day. If there is a God, he will have to beg for my forgiveness. A phrase carved into a concentration camp cell by a Jewish prisoner. A lot of people lost faith in God after what happened to them at during the Holocaust. So it's really no big surprise that there are a lot of secular Jewish people out there anymore.
I just said, I'm being 100% clear, but at the same time, I'm not saying you're doing this. I get you have to because they'll lie. I'm not tiptoeing around this. What I'm saying is I am critical of all of the anti-free speech.
Yes.
Pro-tyranny groups. You know, last time I checked, Tim Cook's not Jewish. He's working with communist China to suppress their people. Last time I checked, Xi Jinping's the biggest dictator in history. His communist regime, going back to Mao, has killed more people than Hitler ever thought about. They estimate 100 million.
Okay, I don't know about Xi Jinping killing mass amounts of people. He's, in my opinion, most definitely engaged in a genocide, and I think that's the opinion of the United Nations too. Killing the Uyghur Muslims, absolutely evil, disgusting, but Hitler killed so many people, dude. It's hard to match up to that. Hitler killed so many. Oh my God.
So, but again, I don't dislike Asian people. My sister is Korean adopted, and I love her. When I was 14 years old, we adopted from Korea when she was 6 months old. I love my sister. I love Asian people, but I am scared as hell of Xi Jinping and his 50 million man army, and I'm definitely upset about it. Yeah. And so, again, if there was some country with 1.5 billion Jews in it, and they were promoting freedom and like America used to be, I'd try to go move there. But if there was a country of 1.5 billion Jews promoting world government and death camps and forced injections, I would say I'm against that regime, not because they're Jewish, but because it's authoritarian.
Okay, this is the position of basically everybody, but Alex Jones wants to paint it as a radical position that basically nobody holds except for him. He's the only reasonable person in the world, and the leftists don't view it that way. The leftists want to destroy, they love Mao, they love Xi Jinping, they love all these people. That's how he wants to paint it. He wants himself to be the only reasonable person.
Same thing with Xi Jinping. I mean, it is the most evil regime in history. It is our main foe. We are in grave.
It's not the most evil in history. I would reserve that for Germany, for 1940s Germany. But, yeah, I have to agree that China is not fantastic.
Danger.
Yeah.
And again, nobody says, oh, you don't like Xi Jinping because you don't like Asians. It's all a fraud.
Yeah, I hate the Communist Chinese.
Nobody's saying that. Nobody says Alex Jones doesn't like Xi Jinping because he doesn't like Asians. I haven't heard that from a single person. He has such a persecution complex, dude. Seriously.
Party, because my heart goes out to the Chinese people. I think Gerald has a question for you, and I appreciate you taking the time because I know that was a tough seat to be in, Alex. There was a moment on your face where you looked like the Boom Goes the Dynamite kid, where you were like, I could tell that you.
He totally did. There were a couple of spots that were really, really funny. Let me just show one clip of Alex Jones in that Kanye interview. That was okay. Watch Alex Jones's face. So it zooms out, like when Kanye starts saying the stuff that he says. Watch Alex Jones's face.
Seriously, I've really studied a lot of history. Plus, I had family that was there. And so, I mean, I don't think Hitler was a good guy. I get the Hugo Boss uniforms, amazing. But I mean, just because you're in love with the design, you're a designer. Can we just kind of say like you like the uniforms, but that's about it.
No.
Okay, now watch his face from this point.
There's a lot of things that I love about Hitler. A lot of things. Hey, Nedden, what did you think about that, Nedden?
Oh my God, it's so ridiculous. I actually have the full interview here, and I have notes on it. So here are my notes. It took me 3 hours to do these notes, and I posted them to a subreddit, David Pacman's subreddit, if you want access to them. Just scroll through my comments or my posts on Reddit, or u/Telltale Atheist, and you'll see them there. But you know what? Since I have this pulled up, let me go to 126.15, because this is a good illustration of what I mean when I say Alex Jones is still anti-Semitic. Listen to what Alex Jones says here.
That lives in Florida. From my experience studying what goes on in politics, aren't Jews like everybody else, like left-wing, right-wing, and different factions fighting with each other and everybody else, like any other group? I mean, I understand there's powerful groups in Hollywood and all these mafias, but it's like we don't blame Italians for the Italian mafia. And when I criticize the Jewish mafia, which is one of the most powerful in the
See, he's talking about the Jewish mafia, most powerful in the world.
Which I don't like. I don't dislike because they happen to be Jewish, happen because they're a mafia. That's really how I think we destigmatize it, just say no to the mafia that is the ADL in Hollywood. Or do you disagree with that or agree? Or you want to say something?
No, look, there's factions.
Yeah, he was talking to Laura Loomer at the time. Well, anyway, I can't find the one of Alex Jones saying that, or I can't find the one where Kanye says he loves Hitler and all that stuff. But yeah, the point is, Alex Jones makes some hilarious faces when Kanye says ridiculous stuff.
Wanted a break. I've been there. All right, JL, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to dive into the Christian thing just a little bit, because people are conflating this Christianity thing with people on the far right that espouse these anti-Semitic views. And even Ye said, I love everybody. Well, and you said it too. You said not that you love everybody, that you're a Christian, right? Just declaring like, I am a Christian. I don't like these things. Christ said he loved the sinner but hated the sin, right? He always called people out for their sins. Just to be clear, did Kanye call Hitler out for any of his sins on your show?
Well, let's be clear, and that's what Kanye didn't get, which is why I'm not trying to put him down, but I don't think he has a fifth-grade education about the Nazis, and I'm going to try to meet with him
I agree with that. I don't think Kanye has even a fifth-grade education on the Nazis.
again and actually show him some real history from Hitler's own writings. Because Hitler was anti-Christian. Hitler was an occultist. He wanted to eradicate Christianity. Some of the top...
Okay, he was an occultist. That's true. He was super into the occult. And anti-Christian... I don't know about that. He was anti-Catholic, but he used Christianity to his benefit. Protestantism. He used Protestantism to get people in line, basically, to line up behind him for many, many years. Eventually, I think near the end of his reign, Hitler turned on the church and eradicated it, but that took a long time, and he used it for years leading up to that. So by the end, I guess he viewed Christianity as like a threat to his power eventually. But up until then, they had been like a benefit to him. So
Nazis in the party did. Now, later, when he took the country over, did some Nazis wear crosses on their shirts? Absolutely. People mixed it together. It's like,
oh, yeah. He used it to his advantage. Hitler did. Very much so. His belt buckle said, there's a German in chat, and she's going to correct me on the pronunciation and stuff, but I think it said God be uns, which means God be with us. Somebody correct me on the exact translation and stuff on that. But anyway, yeah, Hitler definitely used God to his advantage. He, cynically or not, I don't know, but he most definitely used it to his advantage either way.
Right. You might have a Texas thing and then an American flag thing, or an army thing.
Gott mit uns. Thank you so much. That was Tapi Yassir, I think, or Taki Yassir. Thanks for that correction. I was expecting that to come from Pumpkin J, but because Pumpkin J is German. But yeah, Gott mit uns is what the belt buckle said, and it means God with us. So yeah, Hitler most definitely used God to his benefit.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they co-opted it, and sure, the Catholic Church was taken over by the Nazis. I mean, they ran Italy, they ran Germany, so they went along with it. I'm not defending the Catholic Church, but the idea that Hitler was a Christian or
Wow, that was a weird little shot against the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is most definitely persecuted by the Nazis, and there was a certain point in time where the Catholic Church, they were being heavily persecuted, and the Vatican basically spread a single booklet thing that was supposed to be read on a specific Sunday in every single Catholic church throughout the entire world, basically throughout all of Germany and all German-controlled areas or whatever. And it was basically them denouncing racism and hatred based on whatever, and an order to protect Jews if they were baptized, which is fucked up in its own way. That's another story. That wasn't until the end. Again, Hitler tried to use the Catholic Church to his benefit for a short time, and the Catholic Church tried to be used to Hitler's benefit. It just didn't really work out for them for long. So, anyways, yeah, it's weird to me that Alex Jones is demonizing the Catholic Church here when they were very much victims of the Nazi regime too. If you want to demonize anybody, you should demonize the Protestant churches that were in the area at the time and were willing to be used by Hitler.
That Hitler was born a Christian, all this stuff. Adolf Hitler was a deep occultist in his own writings, in his own
That's true.
words. That's why they used runes in their uniforms. It's everything he did.
That's true. All of this is true about Hitler and the occult.
Was about, once they had a worldwide Aryan master race in control of all the slave races, the Ubermenschen over the little slaves, the supermen over the slaves, they were going to eradicate Christianity. They wanted earth worship, blood and soil. If you want to see what they did, there's footage now on Twitter of Ukrainian Azov battalions cutting themselves, getting in a tomb, a 6-foot grave, bleeding into the blood, getting out, hailing you-know-who, but they hail Odin, and then they go over and put their hands on Odin, they've all got swastikas on their arms. That's a real blood and soil Nazi ritual that Hitler invented, that the SS did. So when you see the Azov...
Okay, I can't speak to that. I don't know that that's real. And again, Alex Jones has lost his goodwill with me. I don't trust a word out of his mouth. I'm going to need evidence for all of it. So look this up before believing any of it. But yeah, Hitler was actually very into the occult.
Dog Battalion, they're doing SS rituals. They're not Christian. They're co-opted Norse, Germanic, Viking religion mixed with the Nazis.
Yeah, one of the other reasons that I know these groups are not Christian, Alex, is because the entire Bible from the very beginning to the very end is God's redemption plan for us, but specifically the Jewish people, and God is not done with him. He promises them an opportunity to come back and have a final chance. That's the entire book of Revelation. Most of the Bible is about the redemption of the Jews. And so for any...
God, they desperately want to, separate themselves from the Nazi movement or separate Christianity from it, right? Like I said, Hitler most definitely used Hitler most definitely used Christianity to his benefit to get people on board with him. So you can sit here and pretend that, Christianity did not cooperate or had nothing to do with it or whatever, but that's simply not really true. Not entirely. A lot of the reasoning people used to hate the Jews in, World War II was the claim that they killed Jesus, even though it was the Romans that killed Jesus. I guess they rejected Jesus, so that kind of applies or whatever. But yeah, keep trying to separate yourselves from it. World War II is very much a religious war.
Anybody out there to espouse Christianity and say, I'm anti-Semitic and that this stuff wasn't bad, they haven't read the book. They are not amongst us. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. And by the way,
keep trying to separate yourself from it.
Final point on this was, you've talked about the history in World War II, and he's like, well, Hitler invented the microphone, and he did this, and he did this, and he did this. And
he said highways and the microphone that I'm using.
Yes,
I think he maybe means the Autobahn. Roads were around before Hitler.
They were, but I mean, his highway system, the Hugo Boss stuff, the rockets, I get all.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're bringing this up. So there was a highway program, basically, that Hitler was working on at the time when he was in power, but that program was passed on from the previous government. It was a plan that had been created by, I think, the Social Democrats, and Hitler just picked it up and ran with it and completed it. And that was great. People loved it. Fantastic. Did I mention that he killed 6 million Jews? I mean, I feel like that's being lost in the whole discussion of the good things that he did. I don't care what good things he did, it really doesn't matter to me at all. He killed 6 million Jews. And as far as the microphone goes, apparently, so the microphone has existed since before Hitler was born. But after looking into it a little bit more, apparently the type of microphone that Kanye uses to like sing music and stuff, specifically the style of microphone or the brand or the design, that's the word I'm looking for, the design of microphone that Kanye uses specifically was invented in Germany around the time that Hitler was in power. Similar to how Facebook was invented around the time that George Bush was in power in the United States. That does not mean that Hitler invented the microphone or that George Bush invented Facebook.
All that. He doesn't mention the fact that he did things that would make the Egyptians blush with the people that they killed to build the pyramids. I get it. Maybe aliens did it as well, but I don't think he understands how many people's lives were
That's why they
destroyed.
have to deny it. That's why there has to be a Holocaust denial component. And this is, first off, before I move on to this, because there's so much to unpack here, Alex, how do you think the press has covered it? And I don't mean you. I think that, I don't mean, of course, they'll try and tar and feather you, but I'm saying, do you think that the way the press has said that, hey, Kanye West, yay, on Alex Jones, went off and was very obviously incredibly anti-Semitic, do we think that in this case, was the press partially right? In other words, are they completely misrepresenting it? Or when you were sitting there, did you feel as though this is probably not productive for him?
Look, I like Kanye West. I like Ye. I think he really means well. I don't know if Nick Fuentes believes what he's saying and doing. Nick says a lot of really good stuff I agree with. Once I heard him endorse that he thinks Hitler's great, I lost a lot of respect for him because I know Nick's really smart. And I'm not saying
No, he isn't. He is not smart.
Ye isn't smart, but he's kind of a savant.
No, he isn't. He's a fool. He's a Nazi, and he's a nutcase, and he's not intelligent. Where did Alex Jones get this bizarre idea that Kanye West is intelligent? He said he has like a 5th grade education on Nazis. Practically nothing, obviously.
Has a lot of talent and stuff. And so, yeah, I think in the long run, Ye wants to be a big revolutionary and wants to hit the barbed wire, as he said. He said, you're Terminator 1, we're Terminator 10. And I just really think at the end of the day that that's not the case. The left have adopted so many of the actual Nazi tactics of control. And
like what? Specifically, tell me what things the left does that Nazis did.
Their whole system of lockdowns, what we see in China, big groups of people by the tens of thousands being marched together, being led by one Pied Piper in the whole white medical uniform.
Did he say that the left is doing this? He's conflating all kinds of bizarre, confusing stuff. What's he talking about?
That's the real type ideology that the Nazis were striving for. And we know that Hitler and, of course, Joseph Goebbels wrote about how, this is public, they wanted to take over England and kill H.G. Wells and kill Bertrand Russell and others, because the H.G. Wells and Bertrand Russell had a competing authoritarian world government leftist model that the Nazis were competing with, and they saw.
Okay, I have no idea what he's talking about right now, but he's saying that the left is doing all of this stuff, but then he said something that China is doing and not the left. What?
Themselves, as you said, as socialist, but a different brand of it. And so I happen to know for a fact that the left and the tactic, that's what George Orwell wrote in 1984 about. George Orwell was number 2 in the propaganda arm of British intelligence in World War II. He'd been a communist before that in the Spanish Civil War and been a hero.
Again, I have no idea what he's talking about. Don't believe a word out of his mouth without fact-checking this stuff.
And heavily wounded. But then when he actually got to the top of the British socialist society and recognized that actually Stalin was being funded by the West, that it was actually a war against the individual in the future, and that Hitler had been wound up by British intelligence, not run by them, but actually built up and given power and funding early by the big banks.
Again, I have no idea what all this is about.
He realized that there was a global authoritarian system that operated under different names, but basically had the same goal, total power and control. And the reason I know that is not just reading 1984, probably 8-9 times, but I've read the writings, the essays in several big compendiums of George Orwell right before he died in 1940.
Who the hell is George Orwell? I've never heard this name before. Is he saying George Orwell? Who is George Orwell?
49. He finished 1984 in like 1947, but he died about a year and a half.
Right. So 1984 was written in 1948 or released in 1948. He reversed the last dates. And Alex Jones is saying he finished it in 1947. Okay.
Later. And so George Orwell had this view of it as well.
Who the hell is Orwell?
Thought the Nazis were the ultimate evil. He fought them before.
Is he saying ARWIL? Arwil? I've never heard this name.
World War II in Spain and against Franco. And then he later learned there was a more evil group of Fabian socialist, British intelligence, basically Spectre.
Okay, why does Alex Jones have his hands to his forehead like this?
What you see in the James Bond movies.
Is he recalling, like, information, or is he, like, getting, like, secret transmissions from, like, aliens that are giving him this information or something?
James Bond is Spectre. And I'm not saying all of British intelligence, but that British empire model that merged with America at Bretton Woods, and then America became the world empire at that point, that system is full spectrum dominance, where they want to control all the major groups and then play them off against each other in a Hegelian dialectic.
Can I jump in here with three things? First off, I do encourage people. No. I do encourage people to go and research, Orwell, and also, by the way, the Catalonians, because this is something where people will try and use it as an example of successful socialism, right? In the 1930s, say, oh, anarcho-syndicate socialism. Go read what happened with Orwell and read how that collapsed and the kinds of pressures, and basically there were still factions of warring socialists. Because I was taught that in university, I was taught that in college, that was a good example of socialism, which lasted all but under half a decade. The other thing is, Kanye West said, if you're Terminator 1, he's Terminator 10. I don't think he understands how progressively shittier the Terminator sequels have gotten after Terminator 2. So that's actually a
Yeah, wow. This is actually interesting. They seem to have totally turned on Kanye here.
compliment to you. But here's some.
Which is good. It's good that they're not backing Nazis. I'm surprised, honestly. Pleasantly surprised.
Something else. Look, you and I, you know that I disagree with you on some things, and I agree with you on a lot, disagree with you on some. But I do think you're very consistent in your approach to what you believe morally to be correct and incorrect. Here's my issue with some of the stuff that's going on with Ye, and I don't believe there's hate in his heart. Like you said, I think that there's probably some.
Are you kidding me? You don't think there's hate in his heart? He came out and said he loves Nazis and he wants to see a worse Holocaust. How do you think there's not hate in his heart?
Ignorance, because, and the reason I hold out hope is I see him, he's very pro-life, and he talks about eugenics, and he talks about Sanger and Planned Parenthood and the genocide that's taking place against black babies.
Okay, that's not happening. It's completely made up, just like all the other shit Kanye talks about.
But then he doesn't seem to draw the connection that is something, of course, that Hitler was incredibly enthusiastic about and permeated
Let's go
our
further.
Today.
Hitler said Margaret Sanger's book was his Bible. Look this up. And they used the Margaret Sanger and the Cold Springs Harbor, New York, Rockefeller-run eugenics laboratory as their defense at Nuremberg, because it had been the Rockefellers and Margaret Sanger that helped set up the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in the late.
Okay, from my understanding, it is true that Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist. That does not excuse any of the stuff that Hitler's done. It doesn't mean that abortion is a bad thing or any of that stuff. Abortion is a necessary component to a healthy society. It gives women the freedom to, well, I'll just say it gives women freedom. If you look through history, you will see the best way to improve an economy, to build a strong society, a strong democracy, is to free women. Give them the ability to give them self-determination over their reproductive freedom and allow them to work and treat them as equals. That is the best way to build a strong society. That's how it's done.
1920s that then funded Hitler and was the brain trust of the Nazi race sciences. So what you said is 110% true. And that's what I would try to tell him also once we got off air. So I'm going to try to meet with him sometime when he's not as manic. I'm going to try to explain to him.
Do you think he's manic? Can I ask you that? I know you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Did you sense? I've had bipolar people in my family, and he has said that he was diagnosed with that.
This is actually a big deal right here, because Kanye West, if he does listen to this, will never speak to Alex Jones again if he accuses him of, some kind of mental condition or whatever.
Did you see maybe perhaps some signs of mania? And this isn't concern trolling, because I really hope he has people around him who are helping him and care about him.
No, I mean, I don't think he's mentally ill. I think he's enjoying himself. They have all these diagnosis terms. I mean, I'm pretty manic. I have a lot of energy. So does anybody that's successful. I don't know, but he did seem to be very, very. People can go to Infowars.com, because remember, yes, I'm more sensitive than anybody else out there. They can go to Infowars.com, and they can also go to Band.video and find the full interview.
Band.video is Alex Jones's video network, kind of like his YouTube. Infowars.com or whatever it is like his news website, where it's just written articles that talk about the videos. So yeah, that's what he's referring to there. And I went to Band.video and just downloaded the thing myself. It took forever, but I finally got a copy.
And actually see it for themselves in context. I can't bring myself to go watch it again because I can't stand watching myself, but I've watched a lot of excerpts, and I just think what happened was He decided to go all the way. He decided to try to be as shocking as possible and say screw the world. And then once he started pressing on the dopamine button of saying the things he said, he just couldn't stop. And so it became, just a situation of redlining the engine the entire time he was on.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that might be the case. All right. Well, look, I actually do want to ask you about some things that we probably have to discuss on Mug Club only. Let me just leave this one thing, because I do think this is important. Because look, we do know that you have many Jewish fans. I have many Jewish fans, and by the way, I don't just mean Zionists. I mean there are Jewish libertarian fans who support Israel, certainly in contrast to Hamas and Iran, and people who want to wipe them off the face of the map, but think that we shouldn't be providing as much foreign aid. I don't believe that that's anti-Semitic.
This is complicated. A lot of evangelicals tend to side with Israel because they need Israel to exist as a country before the end can come, basically. So for the most part, they side with Israel no matter what. Personally, I think Israel is treating the Palestinians absolutely terribly, and there's no excuse for that. I don't give a shit. They should find a way to work with others. It's just wrong how they treat Palestinians. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't hate Israel or Jewish people for how they do things or whatever. It's completely unrelated. But yeah, let's keep listening.
I do think it's important, and I think what happens is people are imprecise when they say Jews. It's very different from, for example, Black Americans, or if you, for example, like you mentioned, sort of people from Mexican Americans. Jew can mean a Jewish person can be Jewish by faith, meaning they practice a faith. They can be Jewish by ethnicity, and they can be Jewish by culture. And to lump them all in, there is a very big difference between, yes, I do think there's a conversation to be had about the secularists in the entertainment industry. And if someone wants to conflate that with anti-Semitism, what they're doing is saying, oh, is it because you're saying because they're Jewish? No. I'm saying for the same reason that there are plenty of non-Jewish people in the entertainment industry who are involved with grooming, who are involved with, by the way, the degeneracy of society. The only reason that there tend to be people who are largely atheist Jews.
I don't know what he's talking about. Jewish people involved in degeneracy and grooming and stuff? What?
In the entertainment industry, or for example, in banks, which compared to them as a percentage of the population is Jewish, for the same reason that there are plenty of Jewish doctors and scientists and Asian doctors and scientists, because they're very hardworking, industrious people who value studying, who value higher education, and who value those fields of work. We need to be clear when people are discussing these things that there's a huge difference.
So let me elaborate on that before you switch to Mug Club, because I think this is very important. The left has wrapped itself in, we're Captain America, we're fighting the Nazis, everybody else are Nazis on the side. That's made a lot of people get mad and say, okay, screw you, I'm a Nazi. I think that's
Okay, look, if you feel offended by being accused of being a Nazi and it turns you into a Nazi, maybe you were always a Nazi. I'm just saying. First of all. And second, who on the left accuses people wrongly of being a Nazi? I mean, I know that it's been thrown around a lot historically. Who has accused Alex Jones of being a Nazi with no justification? I'm not familiar with this.
What's happening with Nick Fuentes and people like Kanye West.
Oh, no. Fuentes and West are most definitely Nazis. And they were Nazis before they were accused of being Nazis. They weren't accused of being Nazis until they came out as, like, loving Hitler. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yay West. But I'll tell you, I've been attacked massively by the ADL, all these other groups, and they wrap themselves in, we're Jews, and then they attack me in the name of Jews, which is then making a lot of people think, well, Alex Jones is good, you must be bad. So I know there are a lot of Jews out there, conservative Jews and others, that have sent letters to the ADL saying, leave Tucker Carlson alone, stop calling him an anti-Semite, it's not true, or stop calling.
No, it most definitely is. He is an anti-Semite. Being a Nazi and being an anti-Semite are different from each other, though. There is a distinct difference there.
Donald Trump is anti-Semite. It's preposterous. He's a great friend of Israel. And so it's the weaponization of the left that is actually giving support to real Nazis by watering the whole thing down. It's very, 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 very serious. And the ADL knows exactly what they're doing. So I think people have a right to say whatever they want as long as they don't call for violence. Mm-hmm. I think if the Azog battalion's on there doing literal hit rituals on Twitter, Ye should still be on there.
Okay. Is the Azov battalion doing Hitler rituals on Twitter? I didn't hear about that, first of all. And second, Kanye West was removed from Twitter for endorsing violence. That's the reason that Elon Musk cited for kicking him off of Twitter or whatever. Honestly, I'm really surprised that Elon Musk kicked him off of Twitter in the first place. But anyway.
I'm not defending any of the censorship, any of that. I'm just simply saying the left weaponizing World War II that ended 76 years ago, 77, however many years ago, is very, very dangerous. And the left saying at universities, the national news, you cover it more than anybody, that being white's inherently bad, and teaching courses on that is.
Okay, I don't believe that. Nobody believes that. No one is teaching courses on being white is inherently bad. It's completely made up.
Going to then make Nazis sound legitimate because here's a bunch of leftist academics and Hollywood people, a lot of Jews, literally trying to teach the majority minorities who are now the majority that, oh, white people who aren't a certain, a religious group, white people except Jews are all bad people. This is Hitler.
Nobody is saying this. Nobody is teaching this. This is completely made up.
This is racist. This is race-based politics by the other side. I know almost all Americans, no matter what color they are, disagree with it. Almost all Jews disagree with it. But if we look at the media...
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Almost everybody disagrees with that. Nobody is saying it. What is he even talking about?
And just turn it the other way. It sounds like Hitler when they're on MSNBC saying white people are inherently bad.
Right.
And it's
MSNBC does not say white people are inherently bad. It's completely made up.
to be great when there's no more white people. That needs to stop. That is Hitlerian in the name of fighting Hitler. Do you see the psyop?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And also, where I've never heard that kind of rhetoric? I've been to many a synagogue.
You've never heard it anywhere because it's made up. This does not happen.
Just to be clear, many. Never heard that kind of hatred coming from observant Jews and Orthodox Jews, and I think it's important to delineate. It is Infowars.com. We're going to go to Mug Club.
Oh, I got to tell you right again. Look, folks, ultra-Orthodox Jews, as they call them, are super right-wing pro-America. I see their views. I'm like 98% exactly. And in Israel, the leftist Jews, when they're in power, persecute the right-wing Jews.
Right? No, exactly. It's not a monolith, and people need to be clear about that. And I think that we need to be able to have honest conversations about all of these issues. And sometimes I think that it's overshadowed when someone is, like you said, if you were...
Dude, basically everything that they said in this entire interview is completely made up.
I don't think you were roped in to any kind of publicity stunt, as you said. I don't think you were used. I think you're clever enough to not allow that to happen.
Well,
but
I knew it was a danger. I knew it was a danger, but I believed it wasn't going to happen. I would have much rather had it been a big story and it had been a coming together and an awakening, and then have a relationship with Ye instead of him blowing up like a sun going supernova and burning himself up. I mean, he didn't really hurt Infowars because people know I'm not a Nazi. I'm like, dude, that's not good. But at the same time, Fuentes, and I'm going to get him back on there and challenge him. He's just giggling too much, like it's fun watching this over here. He's not stupid, and he knows the history here, and so. I'm going to have a debate with Fuentes.
He does know the history. Fuentes does. Absolutely. I'm sure of it. I just don't know why, Alex Jones spent his time defending Fuentes for that short time, saying he's not stupid and all that other garbage, or saying he wasn't a Nazi. He was. Fuentes has always been a Nazi, an avowed Nazi, open, public Nazi.
Mean debate. But I'm going to get my history, he can get his history, and we're going to have a debate about this because, to admit the truth about World War II, look, I told the story when they were here. My grandfather, his dad was German. Most of the rest of the family had been in Texas forever, but his dad still spoke some German and was only second generation in Dallas, and they were rich Germans up there, and he owned the big Chevy dealership, all the rest of it, and they lived next to a super rich German who was first generation, who moved here as a kid, who was the inventor, one of the main inventors of refrigeration. He had big patents on air conditioning. He was super rich, the equivalent of a billionaire today, and in the fanciest part of Dallas, he owned like a 100-acre complex, and my grandfather would go over there and he would tinker and work in this guy's invention shop. The reason my grandfather after World War II got into inventing and stuff and was involved with some different projects. And he watched this guy who had blonde hair, by the way, and blue eyes, totally German, quote, Aryan. He watched that guy from the early 30s up until my grandfather went off to the Army Air Corps. And he watched that guy get totally depressed, just shut up, become reclusive, and I think he told me the story twice, commit suicide later, was because he later learned the Nazis over the decade that they were in power from 33 or up were threatening to kill his German relatives in Germany if he didn't secretly give him all their money. So that's what the Nazis did.
Yeah, I can agree. Nazis were terrible. They were evil, and they did a lot of bad stuff, 100%. That was a long-winded story to go through to just get to that ultimate point.
They were the most cutthroat. At the end of the war, they probably would have won if they didn't spend half their time running around stealing all the art, including the drapes. They had whole giant cave systems that they had people build just to put the hordes of loot in.
Yeah.
I mean, they were
absolutely evil. And by the way, if the people back then, this is the thing, it's one of those things where people today, Monday morning quarterback, and say, I think they did a lot of good things. Well, guess what? The people who were held out as ambassadors back then for Nazis, it was done by force. For example, Max Schmeling and Joe Louis. Max Schmeling, a lot of people know the Jesse Owens story. Max Schmeling and Joe Louis, right? Schmeling was the Aryan representative, Joe Louis for the United States. They were good friends for the rest of their lives because Max Schmeling was not a Nazi, did not support what they were on board with. Now, before we go to Mug Club, it's Infowars.com, and I'm hearing I don't want people to misrepresent what you're saying. You just said you're not trying to platform because you agree with him. You want to have Nick Fuentes on so you can debate him and show where he is wrong. And I think that
I'm actually okay with bringing people on to debate and show where somebody is wrong, generally speaking, for the most part. I think I'm okay with that. I don't really have a problem with it. I wish that Alex Jones had pushed back harder against Kanye.
that is something that is healthy. Otherwise, people exist in echo chambers. Infowars.com.
Echo chambers aren't real. Real life does not work this way. It's just completely made up.
We're going to go to Mug Club because YouTube, there's no way we could do this here. Alex, stay with us. YouTube, piss off. Thank you, Rumble.
Wow, okay, that was the end. I don't know, this is just bizarre, man. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Should I cover more stuff like this? Is Alex Jones actually a Nazi? Or is he just anti-Semitic for believing that, you know, the Jews have some mafia that controls things or whatever? Let me know. Let me know what you think in the comments. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, check me out on Patreon. And let me know if you want to see more stuff like this in the comments. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.